people will kind of filter through. So thank you for everyone for registering for this today. We've had a really overwhelming response actually, which I think is a really good sign that the topic we've chosen today is resonating with people. So lovely to meet you. I'm Sam Harris. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Ripple, looking after the sales and marketing teams. I know Amelia and Zoe really well from over the years, having been Ripple customers, but today really I'm just the background. I'm here to ask questions and yeah, really excited to find out some more information from both Betfred and HGS. So just going to set the scene a little bit and talk you through a little bit about what we're going to do today. But essentially it's going to be a Q&A format, so I'm going to be here asking questions. We would love you to put forward any questions as we go along, so use the Q&A function or the chat function in the Teams webinar format. We would love you to ask them as we go along, and if I see something that really resonates with what Zoe and Amelia are saying at the time, I may interrupt and ask them that question because I really want to know the answer. But otherwise, we will look to answer those questions at the end, and we'll try and get through them depending on time. But if we do happen to run out of time, or actually you don't think of any questions at the moment and you want to follow up with some, we'll look to follow up those questions post-webinar as well. So everyone should be muted. I do think we can unmute you if you really want to speak up and ask your question, but otherwise I think most people will be comfortable using the chat function. So that's kind of the housekeeping. I want to set the scene really for this webinar and why we decided to do it in the first place. And I thought the easiest way to do that was to share a little bit of research, which is on screen now. And don't worry, I'm not going to read through every single stat, but I thought these stats could be useful for those of you on the call today that are trying to build business cases internally, either for more reward budget or for your first budget if you don't have anything at the moment. So obviously you'll receive the recording of this after the session, so you don't need to take a screenshot or anything, but I will summarise essentially what the story is telling from these stats, and that is that at the moment, HR people reward teams are really caught between two pressures. On one hand, we have employees that are continuing to feel the impact of that rising cost of living, and that's demonstrated by the stat here that says 2/3 of households felt back in May that they'd been impacted by another kind of month of increasing costs. So people are constantly putting their hands up to say we're struggling. But on the other hand, we're also getting organisations and employers that are saying, well, our HR budgets aren't going in, the right direction to be able to support our people with that challenge. And sometimes they're getting smaller, which is even worse. So it really is compounding. So out of all of this, the question really becomes, how as teams can we support our people better? Can we still create meaningful moments and continue to deliver value without always spending more money? And don't get me wrong, today we will be talking about things where it involves spending money and reward budgets. But when we talk about those things, we'll be talking about how can we make them go further? How can we improve the effectiveness, the ROI? So there's lots of that today, as well as lots of other things that don't involve reward budget. And so that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Our speakers are going to share some great examples. So I'm really hoping that you'll walk away with some practical ideas of things that you can implement in your own organisation. And so without further ado, a little bit more about the organisations that we have here today. So Ripple could have very easily decided to pick two of our customers that were quite similar, because then we would have had a very similar tone and they would have had very similar challenges. But actually we decided to choose or invite two customers who on paper seem very, very different. So a little bit of an intro if you don't know them. We have Betfred, who have around 8,000 colleagues spread across the UK, South Africa, America, Gibraltar. They're a majority deskless workforce, as you can imagine, so 80% of them are not sat behind a laptop or a computer. So those people are in across their 1,300 or thereabouts betting shops, so in a retail environment. And of course, then we have the head office staff who are kind of desk-based, sat behind the scenes, making the business work as it does. And so these colleagues are customer facing as well. So when they are in the retail shops, so naturally they're customer facing. So that then influences how the business wants to operate their engagement programs. And so on the flip side, we have HGS UK. So they have around 1,000 colleagues. They all work behind a desktop or laptop, so completely different to Betfred. But 90% of them do work from home. So it's a highly remote business, and then a couple of hybrid workers. And in terms of what they do as a business, well, they deliver customer experience services, digital transformation, and business process services. So very much a different industry. And they do that across a lot of different sectors. And they're client facing as opposed to customer facing, in the sense that often the HGS colleagues are providing a service on behalf of their clients. So it could be like a call center service, for example, on behalf of another brand. So definitely very different on paper, but what was really interesting is when the three of us came together to start prepping for this webinar, we found that actually they were really coming across the same challenges. So that takes me on nicely to introduce you to the two lovely ladies who are here to talk to you today. And so that is Amelia Billington, Group Head of Reward and Engagement for Betfred, and Zoe Beattie, Head of People Experience and Engagement for HGS UK. So if you don't mind, Amelia, I'm going to start with you, and obviously feel free to say hi to the room. But I'd love to know a little bit different, rather than doing kind of bios and job titles. I'd love to know, what is it about employee reward and engagement that really gets you out of bed in the morning? And when you started your journey at Betfred, what challenge were you really trying to solve?
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. So for me, the world of reward is about making a difference to people and adding value for them. So I've worked in all different areas of HR in my career, and I fell into reward about 6 or 7 years ago. No jokes on the 6-7. And as cheesy as it sounds, for me, it's not just about how benefits link to a job. So a good benefits proposition can really make a difference to somebody's life and even to their family if you stretch that bit further. So things like looking at real life challenges. So being able to get a GP appointment when you need it, mental health support, debt support, legal support, helping people to save money and make their money work harder. Boosting morale through recognition and creating a sense of value and connection with the organisation. So when I joined Betfred a couple of years ago, it was a really great opportunity that really excited me. And our biggest challenge was around attraction and retention. So the first priority, as many of you will probably have experienced in your career so far, was to simply just do a benefits review. So what have we got? Making sure that they're relevant, making sure they're competitive, checking what's our return on investment. And we found that many people didn't know what we had, recognition wasn't consistent, and those who did know what we had weren't using it consistently or weren't using it to its fullest potential. We also looked into why people were leaving and what that feedback was on our benefits, and we created a plan and built it out from there, really. And I think the key to us was switching up our benefits platform, and doing that we save money and we put that to better use elsewhere in our benefits budget, and it opened the doors to a couple of things that we'll talk about over the next half hour or so. So I'll stop there for a minute.
Lovely, thanks, Amelia. Yeah, a couple of themes we'll talk about there. So then I'm going to add you to the frame, so hopefully everyone can see you as well, Zoe. So over to you, Zoe. Kind of, why do you love what you do, and what sort of challenges did you have when you joined HGS?
My goodness, how do I follow that, Amelia? Thank you for letting me come along today, and it's great to see so many people joining. So why I love what I do, I'm going to start by being a bit cheesy. So I believe the everyday moments we experience at work have such an impact on how we feel. And organisations are doing phenomenal stuff in terms of what initiatives are we doing, what change can we implement to really improve that end-to-end employee journey. But the moments that matter, those everyday moments, have such a significant impact. And the reason I really hone in on these things is because we all play our part. If I'm a leader in a business, if I'm a manager of people, if I'm part of a team or an individual, we can all have an impact on how people feel, welcoming someone new into the business, celebrating a milestone or something that's happened in someone's life, work related or not, when someone's leaving, making them feel they're going to be remembered, and everything in between. And the challenge for me for HGS was really helping us to create a platform and a space in a remote first business to allow all of us to contribute to that everyday moment.
Fabulous. Great intros. Thank you very much. So I'm going to now, I think everyone can still see the screen, hopefully, maybe a little bit smaller than it was before, but just want to now show you what we're going to be covering today in terms of those 5 ways. And how can we make that budget stretch further? How can we make things work harder? So those are the 5 topics. And we're just going to dive into it. So we're going to kick off with the first question. So helping money go further. We all know budgets are tight. So how can organisations still create meaningful value for employees? So Amelia, I'm going to come to you first on that one.
Okay, so be creative. I think that's the headline for this one. So you've got to get really savvy with a small pot of money and reach as many people as possible with that. So you need to think really creatively about what your options are and consider all of those options thoroughly. Just to give you an example, so we had a small pot of cash, and I mean small, it was about £5,000. So for a work size of a workforce of our size. I told you this was going to be a
Third
real
time lucky.
Roundsworth chat. A workforce of our size, £5,000 isn't going to go very far. So we used that as a trial to boost our supermarket discounts within the platform. So we thought about our messaging and we thought about our timing, and we did it kind of end of August, early September time. So we went along the lines of while stocks last, because it literally was a £5,000 limit that we had to boost those supermarket discounts. And we timed it around the school, summer holidays, back to school, etc. And that gave us a focus for comms. So we went with themes like, have the kids eaten you out of house and home over the summer, or back to school uniform savings. So it was about picking a time that felt relevant to our workforce, about something that they would really value with that extra boost. And what we saw on that boosted discount promotion was 120% increase in our utilisation. And colleagues also spent about 50% more than they normally would have done in terms of month-on-month average. But I suppose that makes sense when you think about it, because it's a limited time deal. You're putting a timestamp on it. Colleagues were budgeting, they're thinking longer term. And I think for me, I mentioned this just at the start, so it's around finding ways to make money work harder for people. So I took what was a small amount of money and tried to use it in the most impactful way that I could. And the general feedback we had from colleagues was that they really liked that. They liked the fact that they could get that supermarket discount at a higher rate than they could get anywhere else. So that is definitely something that we will look to do again in the future, because I think that one landed really well with our teams.
Yeah, something that appeals to everyone being supermarkets. And Zoe, over at HGS, you did a similar but different thing. So can you share kind of how you did it?
Very, very similar. Just to touch on what Amelia was saying about the getting creative, I think what's worked well for us is getting colleagues involved. So sometimes with positive intent, it's easy to fall into the assumption mix. So this feels right, so we'll try this, when actually your answers are out there. Get your colleagues involved to really understand how you can get bang for your buck. And no matter, even if you've got a bigger budget, it's always important to have colleagues involved, because they will help you understand what they need and what they want. But very similar example, the rising cost of living, incredibly challenging for everyone. And what we did was make the investment to get a permanent boost of supermarket, which has gone down a storm. I guess the difference between us is there's that limitation for Betfred, which is great because it's don't miss out, get it. We have it continuously because of different moments in different people's different, can't get my words out, different moments in people's lives. I know. So that permanent supermarket discount has really, really helped colleagues. And just to reinforce, we're talking about a boost. So it's not the typical percentage you would get. This is a big boost, which gives so much more money back into people's wallets that they can save and spend how they see fit.
And I think probably creates a lot more of people talking about it internally with colleagues. Oh, have you not looked on the platform? You haven't seen you can get that voucher. And I think that fear of missing out, then people can, it kind of catches on in that way, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So I think a good example there of how you can do something, but it doesn't have to be always. You can kind of spotlight it throughout the year. And I think good example where you maybe didn't have a bigger budget, but you've made good use of it. So yeah, really good examples there. Thank you, guys. So I think that nicely takes us on to the next question. So you've probably actually touched on this one a little one already, actually, Amelia, but this is all about making the timing work as hard as the actual thing that you're doing itself. So I'll start with you, Zoe, on this one. So have you ever done anything at HGS, or you might have another example elsewhere, but HGS specifically, have you ever seen a small reward create a bigger reaction than a large one, just because the timing was right or something happened to resonate really well with that thing you did?
I'll give a couple of examples. So one is our 12 Days of Glow initiative that we run in December. And I will stop and pause to say this is not a happy, clappy, fun, fluffy initiative. Yes, we want positivity. We do it for fun. We want to have an impact. We want people to go away feeling energetic. But the reason we do it in December, feedback from colleagues, that time of year, financial, physical, mental, emotional well-being is incredibly important. So our content manager designs initiatives that really bring that to life in a very creative way so that people can feel connected to each other, build a bit of community, at the same time getting that opportunity to win some rewards. So we do save up some reward points for that moment in time, but we make them small rewards so that more people can get them. And at that time of year, it's then very supportive. But those initiatives aren't just there for the reward. It's about educating people, signposting them to the right benefits. It's about getting people to share tips and tricks on how they're saving money and how they're utilising it. So that was one. The second is a very, very recent initiative that we've introduced from feedback from colleagues to have a monthly wallet boost. So every month now, colleagues will get a small reward in their pot that they can either use that same month, or they can bank on it, save it, and within that same year get something a bit more substantial. So going back to what we were saying earlier, getting your colleagues involved really helps you understand how you can have a bigger impact than bigger initiatives.
Lovely, thanks, Zoe. And Amelia, I think you've got some examples of where you used to do one thing and you kind of had some feedback and changed it to another thing. So similar to what Zoe's saying.
Yeah, definitely. Although I'm really distracted by that 12 days of glow, and I think Zoe and I need to have another conversation about how that works in practice, because I like the part about getting colleagues to share their stories, how they're saving, what they're doing, and that kind of stuff. That's something that we're really focused on at the minute. But I'm going off track. So, smaller rewards creating bigger reactions. So I think for us, we trialed a new small reward system as part of our updated recognition strategy. So we did two things twice in a, well, we did something twice in a year. We did a £10 Greggs voucher in the summertime, and it was a bit of a lunch on us. And then we did a £25 Asda voucher at Christmas. So just a small gesture at the end of the year. And again, a workforce of our size, that quickly adds up. So it was something that was really important to us to do. And it was a bit of a, is it going to land well? Are colleagues going to feel like it means anything? Because the value to them might have felt quite small, you know, a £10 lunch voucher effectively. But the reaction and the level of appreciation that we got absolutely blew us away. And it was bigger, it was more appreciation than we had for bigger bonuses that they'd received historically, which I just wasn't expecting. It really surprised me, and it was lovely. And I think the feedback behind that, it was something for nothing. So it was a pure recognition of colleagues' efforts. We timed it at the end of a big event for the Greggs voucher one and then the Christmas one. So the timing of those two things was really significant, and it was just a small token of appreciation, and that really, really went a long way with colleagues. And now that was manual. It was felt at the time that colleagues needed something tangible in hand for it to actually have the impact that we wanted it to have. There was so much admin involved. There was 1,300 locations that we needed to get those vouchers out to. Vouchers went missing. There were loads of queries. It was chaos. So the next time we did it, we trialed it as points on our platform, and we did a one-off. It was £35 at Christmas, and again, colleagues went absolutely wild. Just a small, you know, Christmas gift, token of appreciation at the end of the year. So a better impact than we'd ever had for larger bonuses. And I think before my time, we'd issued physical vouchers for incentives and competitions and things like that as well. And it was a manual system again. So it took weeks for it to land with colleagues. And by the time it got there, they didn't remember why they'd even got it in the first place. So it totally lost its impact. It cost an absolute fortune, and nobody recognised why they needed it. So in terms of timing, for me, recognition lands better when it's in the moment. And I suppose my takeaways from that is make it sharp, make it snappy, and make it mean something.
Yeah, and I love that you did the points means people can choose whatever voucher they want. So you would have still had the MI as well to actually know, okay, what do people go and spend it on? So you then have the insight for future campaigns, but actually, you're right, having it there in the moment would have been, yeah, a lot more impactful. So I'm not surprised they were excited about the £10 Greggs voucher. That's at least 8 sausage rolls, so it goes quite far.
I'd be really happy with a £10 Greggs voucher, to be fair.
I know, it's a couple of meal deals, isn't it? So brilliant. Okay, thanks for sharing those ideas. The next one is actually around finding your multipliers, which is a really interesting way of putting it. What we mean by this is, so often we know that your teams become, you know, the point of contact when it comes to, okay, well, you asked for this budget, you did this thing, has it worked? Did you do enough to make it work? But actually, I think we're going to talk now about there's more to it than just it landing with your team and your team being solely responsible. So how do we avoid your teams becoming responsible for driving that engagement when you are running these initiatives? Amelia, if you can go first.
Okay, so we've done a couple of things on this one. So we've devolved recognition to managers through small pots of points that they can distribute as they see fit. And I recognise as well, just thinking about it, I'm talking about pots of points and haven't actually explained what that is. So for anybody who doesn't know, on Ripple platform, which is the one we use, hence why I'm here, we issue colleagues with points. We have a reward system where we issue points. And for us, we've configured that so 1 point equals £1. So colleagues can then take those pounds and they can spend them with, hundreds of high street retailers or convert it into a voucher to go into a shop as they see fit, basically. So we devolved recognition, as I say, to managers through small pots of points, and then they can recognise people as they see fit for all the, moments of excellence that they see around the business. And we keep this alive. We keep revisiting it with every opportunity. We're also lucky that we've got a structured team in our retail division, so that's where the majority of our colleagues are. So that structured area team can help us reach that 7,000 colleagues relatively easily. So I think to Sam's point about finding your multipliers, if you don't have that sort of structure, it's about finding or recruiting your champions. So identifying who your advocates are and making sure that you can get the messages to them and bring them together for updates and stuff. So we met with a group of 12 colleagues recently, and collectively they are contact points for about 3,500 people. So we spent an hour or so with them. That's all it took, just sharing our benefits proposition, walking them through the platform. And we demonstrated key things we wanted them to focus on. So how to download the app and how to buy a voucher and add it to their wallet on their phone. So we got them all to get their phones out. We took them through it step by step, and the feedback was really, really positive. Comments like, I didn't realise how easy it was. Oh God, I could have saved a fortune by now, that sort of stuff. And so once we had them on board, their mission was to share that information with their colleagues across retail. And those sorts of conversations work two ways as well. So another example is we have a benefit which gives you early access to earned wages. And there's loads of other features in the app, but people were missing out on it because they thought it was all about accessing their pay early, and that wasn't something that appealed to them. That wasn't what they wanted, but they were missing out on the other features. So taking that feedback, the team created some new content and a new campaign about how to get the best out of the app. So how to turn features on and off to suit your preferences, that sort of stuff. And we've since seen a peak in colleagues saving directly from their pay, which is part of this benefit. So I don't think that that's a coincidence. I feel like we've been able to draw a direct correlation there. I'm really pleased with how that's going.
Nice. So more like a train the trainer sort of system where, pass that information on and it can multiply down the line.
Absolutely.
Very nice. And Zoe, I think a similar approach from you, but actually I think you're going to talk about how it hasn't always just been managers that have been your champions as well. You've had people just come up through the, absolutely just lovers of the platform and what you do and come and talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll touch on two things. So the first is that bottom-up approach. So even before we went live with the platform, we were really keen to make sure we got champions up front. So we went out and got ourselves some amazing champions who really wanted to contribute to impacting the lives of their colleagues. They wanted to come and help shape this platform. So they had access to the platform a month in advance of anyone else to test it, to try different things, to give feedback. They helped with some of the layouts so that it would be a lot more user-friendly for people. And then when we went live, naturally, they just became our massive advocates because they wanted people to benefit from the discounts, to make sure they used all the different features available, to make sure they were recognising each other. And to this day, we have one colleague who the supermarket discount is their love life of HGS. They constantly, regularly talk about it with their teams because it's so important. So number one, bottom up worked really, really well, and getting people involved early doors. The second thing was around managers and making sure we had team plans. So similar to Amelia, our managers, our departments get a budget, but that has to be based on something. So we advocate our teams to have employee engagement plans that are based on colleague feedback. We provide department budgets to allow them to develop their own plans on the platform so that it means something to their team. So we don't direct how they use it. We really want to empower and give them the flexibility and the freedom to make sure those rewards are being used against something that matters. So that might be related to well-being, it might be related to recognition, it might be related to some initiatives and driving key performance, but it really has had a really big impact for managers because they feel in control of it. It's not something that we're just creating as a one size fits all. So yeah, to bottom up, and then a manager plan is important.
Lovely. I think, yeah, it's impossible to think you can influence every employee yourself or every colleague yourself. So if you can find those people who can influence others, then you've kind of struck gold. So I think you guys have demonstrated that, which is brilliant. The next question is trying to think beyond cash. So we talked about a couple of things that does involve reward, at least directly in terms of taking out your budget. So what or which non-monetary engagement initiatives have surprised you the most in terms of their impact? So these are things that don't necessarily revolve around taking out your reward pot or points in the system, etc. So other things that you may have done that have actually had quite a good impact. And Zoe, coming back to you, if that's all right.
So I have two, but the first I can't take credit for, and the second is in development. So the first one was actually developed by our head of planning, who is an awesome people person. So I think naturally we think planning people around bums on seats and making sure we're being really efficient and stuff, but he is so people driven, it's incredible. So he wanted to make sure our operational teams had something else to give outside of reward. So every department within our operation has an additional break that they can give out, one a day. They don't have to, but they have the ability to give someone an additional break in response to something they may have done or an impact that they've had. It might just be some recognition for supporting someone else. It can be for whatever they like, but it's that opportunity to give someone that additional break. And bearing in mind, the majority of our contact centre will be on the phones, working from home, back to back. So actually having an additional break means something. It's really important. The thing that's in development is another feature within the Ripple platform. So it's spin to win. So we haven't introduced this yet, but we are this financial year. So I can't give loads away, but the idea behind it is we will have some rewards, but we don't have much left over. But what we're introducing is other non-monetary giveaways. So things like finish early, start late, have an additional break, guarantee a team to have lunch together virtually, which doesn't necessarily happen day to day. It could be a half-day holiday. It could be a full day annual leave. So the frequency of that is yet to be decided, and all the things that happen within it is yet to be pinned down. But that's a feature that we're really, really excited for. And even though it hasn't been implemented yet, so we don't know the impact, we just know those breaks, those additional time away from work is going to have a big impact.
Yeah, brilliant. I think Mia, you've also toyed with a spin to win kind of thing on your side as well, is that right?
Yeah, we have. So again, similar to Zoe, we've done a couple of things in this space. We've got different things in our spin to win, but actually really like the sound of some of Zoe's. So we launched a new business strategy last year, and we were keen to make engagement with it as fun and as social as possible. So we've ran live spin to wins on our update calls, so everybody comes together to hear the business updates and get involved and that sort of thing. And we run a spin to win on that with prize draws, and they are high and low spend items, so quite often they'll be topical to the business. One of my team was telling me earlier on Friday she won an England football shirt. We've had Betfred Stanley Cups, Betfred fleeces, footballs, but then there's also like a PlayStation 5, so there's a good mix of different items. I think there was a coffee machine and a Dyson on there at some point. So like I say, high and low spend items that are behind this spin to win. So very tangible things. But I think that creates a buzz and excitement and sense of community, which is great. But also it doesn't need to be costly. So some of the other stuff that we focused on is non-monetary recognition, and it can have just as big of an impact. So small moments of recognition, congratulations on getting married, moving house, the promotion, congratulations on the promotion. Thanks for everything you did last week. It's just those like micro moments of recognition. So genuinely showing your appreciation, encouraging that across your business, making people feel valued. And there's loads of theories around it. And I know we promised we wouldn't get theoretical and fluffy, but we can see through the data we've got in the platform that colleagues receiving recognition are more than 50% less likely to leave our organisation, which is insane. So I will leave you to draw your own conclusions from that.
Thanks, Amelia. And what I love, I think, actually about those two examples that you just given are, it's all about know your audience. So they're completely different things, but for Zoe's colleagues, they are sat behind desks, probably doing quite long shifts, potentially working from home. So actually the extra breaks, the early finishes, that's something they're going to really benefit from. And then Amelia, like, you've probably got colleagues who are real advocates of the Betfred brand. They love what they do, and working in the retail units, etc. So actually having the Betfred branded stuff and the merch, again, it's relevant to them. So I think it's a really good kind of view on know your audience, and that can also influence the engagement behind these things. So yeah, I really love those ideas. Thank you. That takes us then to the last way, which is we've kind of nicknamed it "Don't Launch and Leave," and this is really a conversation that came out of our prep for this webinar, where you can do so much to get something over the line, and then it can often like fall on its face or doesn't have the impact you think it's going to have. So if you do invest in something and it gets implemented and you get it there, how do you ensure that actually generates engagement? Amelia, I'll start with you.
So my biggest piece of advice on this one, and I say this all the time, I'm like a broken record, but you need to allocate resource to keep it alive. So you need to make sure you've got some great continuous communications. You need to keep it alive, keep it fresh, and don't let it go silent. So people will forget what you've got. It's not it's your bread and butter, it's not theirs. So unless you keep telling them what you've got and where it is and how to use it, it just becomes wallpaper. People leave, new people join, they don't find out about it. So to combat that, we considered our full employee life cycle. So I would say think about where you can talk about your benefits and make sure they've got a clear and consistent tone. So think about your adverts, your onboarding, offer letters, inductions, handbook, intranet, wall space. What else have we used? Desktop screens, screensavers, and the platform notifications as well. So we use all of that to signpost to the platform as a one-stop shop for information, and that helps us keep it controlled, keep it up to date, because then we've only really got one place we need to update things. If you've got a little bit on your intranet and then a poster in the kitchen and a little bit on the platform, like, it can quickly become outdated. So it just helps manage the admin on that. And then we use the platform itself to run regular benefit spotlights, so pulling out key themes or benefits of interest. As I say, we made it our one-stop shop for everything, including competition information, incentives, except for the spin to win and physical prizes. All rewards are now given in points as well. So I think the big thing is continually review what you've got and how you share it, and just make sure you keep talking about it.
And I think it is worth saying as well, like the amount of effort you put in at the beginning. I know for Betfred, at least on your platform, you have a really high registration rate. So actually, if you do put that upfront effort in as well, and you get them onto the platform in which you're talking about your rewards and benefits, that's half the battle, because then you can that opens up like a channel of other tools you have in your toolbox, right? In terms of then you can use all the things within the platform to also reach those people. So there's a bit of that as well in terms of if you are implementing something at the beginning, like putting that effort in up front.
Absolutely. I think just to add on that as well, if I can, we, because of the way in which we sign people up to our platform, we actively want them to consent to it. So we've got a 97% registration rate, which I'm really proud of, and that's testament to the hard work of my team and others in the business in promoting that. But it just shows, even though we're not automatically registering people, the way in which we are communicating about the platform and its benefits, I think, is having a real impact on that registration rate, which I think is quite a significant achievement as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zoe, I think also a really high registration rate on your platform, but also some similarities there in terms, I think content is the key in terms of how you push things out. Is that right?
Absolutely, everything Amelia said. However, I am tapping you up about the life cycle to learn. So I'll give you 12 days of glow if you give me that, and I'd love a Stanley Cup.
I need a Stanley Cup myself.
Yeah, we all do.
So yeah, just to add a couple of examples of something we do to try and encourage people to get on the platform. One, we have regular relevant initiatives. So our colleagues know we have 3 initiatives every month. They do align to our people priorities. So our content manager really thinks creatively around how do we bring this to life so that it's something that people want to engage with and enjoy. And he'll sometimes make it relevant to the time of year as well. So that's 3 a month. Sometimes we add an ad hoc one in there every now and again to keep people on the toes. And then we also have a monthly draw. So the initiatives need a little bit of effort, but the monthly draw just means anyone can just enter and be in to win. I guess the reason we do that is not just to give them the opportunity to get involved, to learn something, to bank some reward points. It's actually about getting them on the platform so that, like Amelia said, they can see exactly what's available to them, what discounts are there, what benefits are there. So that's some of the key things that we're doing. And just touching on what Amelia said, it's that continuous improvement. Don't just carry on doing what you're doing. Continually get that feedback from your colleagues. Listen to them, really understand what is it that they want, what is it that they need, and really start to try different things. If it doesn't work, that's okay. You can try something else. Colleagues love being involved and seeing things be brought to life that they contributed to. The one lady I talked about, the supermarket, she is at me every month for 2 years since we introduced Ripple for a monthly reward. And when we announced it, the glowing reference we got, the feeling that came through her email, because she feels like she's massively contributed to all her colleagues getting these reward points. So yeah, continue to listen to your colleagues, understand their needs and act.
Love that. Brilliant. Well, you've said some amazing things. I think the one thing that comes quite clear from all of that you've just shared is there can be a lot involved in launching new initiatives, platforms, whatever kind of organizations are doing out there. That's the starting line, isn't it? There's a lot that goes into it. And I think, and that could be both the, vendor side and client side. So I know like we can also support a lot on those things. But yeah, it sounds like you've really invested. You know that by putting this in place, you have to put that resource in your side as well, which I think is fair. And you're obviously reaping the rewards from that as well. So thank you very much for sharing that. So kind of just right on time really, in terms of we've got probably kind of up to 7 minutes left really. If there is any questions that anyone has, I'm just going to go to the Q&A tab, see if we have anything in there. Well, it's taken a while to load. I don't know if you guys can load it quicker than me. Oh,
yeah,
there
is. Sorry.
Oh, there is, yeah. So we have yeah, we've got a question. So I work in an environment where we have factory workers and office workers. I usually find office staff get involved in benefits and cultural activities more than the factory workers. Do you have any tips on how we can integrate both sides of the workforce when it comes to cultural activities and recognition initiatives? So Amelia, that's probably more skewed to you in terms of you've got your kind of office population plus your retail staff, but then also maybe Zoe for you as well, in terms of you have that manager population and then you have those customer facing colleagues as well. So that's part number 1. So I don't know if there's anything popping up in terms of ideas there.
Yeah, I'll go. So I can definitely relate to that question. I think the biggest thing for us was when we changed platforms, we moved over to Ripple. And I know I said it's not salesy. My point is the Ripple platform has an app and our previous one didn't. That for me was the golden ticket to our deskless workforce. So we did a whole load of pre-launch campaign, kind of breadcrumbing the launch, what it was going to bring, and we landed it with some new benefits as well. So things that people actually wanted to engage with. And I think that communication, it's knowing your communication channels for those people. So, do they have daily briefings? Do they have regular handover points? What kind of conversations are they having from a shift leader or manager to somebody on a production line, for example? Where are those conversations happening? They're the conversations you need to get into to help them see the value in having the platform or getting involved in it. But I'd also ask them as well. So if you haven't already, that is, have the conversation with as many people as you can to understand why it is that they don't get involved and what's the problem that you're trying to solve. And then you can kind of triangulate all of your points and hopefully you can reach the right answer with them. And that would probably be where I would start.
Well, thanks, Amelia. Zoe, any thoughts about that? 2 different sides of the business. You might not be able to resonate that much with HGS.
It would be based on what I think is right, because we don't like the office side. You're right, it is a lot. I would say it is easier for people to engage with it. So I would take Amelia's advice, and similar to your answer to one of the questions, Amelia, around getting some people on board. So when you're asking people why, what are these problems, what are we trying to solve here, get those sample of people who can support and be those advocates for you, who can take all that feedback, feed it into you, and then you can shape what that needs to look like. But yeah, it's very hard to add to what Amelia said.
Well, the other part of the go on, Amelia.
I was just going to add something else. Sometimes in like a change management type situation, often the people that will have the biggest impact for you are the people that seem the hardest to get on board. If you can get those, you know, slightly more reserved or maybe more difficult colleagues on board, if you can win them round, generally they can be a key to getting everybody else engaged as well. So I would focus on who are the people that maybe don't seem all that engaged with it, and see what conversations you can have there to unlock that cohort.
Yeah,
and I think that is. Sorry,
Sam.
All right, go on.
I was just going to say, leading on to the second point as well, is probably the same response as to what Amelia said. So if you've got managers that aren't on board and don't see the positive impact, it's not a priority, it's fluffy, etc., go and have that candid, open conversation. Give them the space and the freedom to talk about and really drill down into the why. It's just fluffy. Often, sometimes people say it's fluffy, and actually they want to have this impact, but they've got a load of other things that are a priority. So really try and get to the root cause of why it's fluffy, so that you can then understand how to change it. So listen to your managers as well.
Yeah, I think Zoe and I could talk about this for ages, because I've just thought of something else.
Go. I'll share something I've heard as well, whilst you kind of think your extra bit, Amelia. In terms of like the managers seeing it as a bit fluffy, I've seen some examples in organizations where they build the recognition piece into like performance management. So in terms of not necessarily for the manager, but as and when there's reviews coming up for colleagues, can you bring that in as part of asking the colleague, have they been recognized? You can even look, if you're using a platform, you can then go and look in and you can talk about those moments where they've been appreciated or recognized by other colleagues. So actually embedding it into different processes you have in the business is one way of actually providing like a tangible touch point for that to be part of the business, rather than just asking them to do it and they feel like they don't have time to do it. So that's one thing I've seen. And then I guess the other one is that champions piece. So could you speak to a certain level of management and go, look, we've got this thing coming up. We really want to identify people who could be influencers within the business, and not influencers in terms of the Instagram field, but people who are real advocates for our company. Maybe they've been with the business a long time, they really understand the ins and outs of it. And then you could then pinpoint those people as people you chat to and understand, right, how could we roll this out? How can we have conversations? And you'll find that if you get that piece right, they will often go and talk to people on your behalf, because if they opt in to what you're doing and they believe it's positive, then they'll pass that on quite naturally. So yeah, I guess just pulling on the things they said there. But yeah, Amelia, go on and add what you said.
I was just going to say, it's using data to your advantage as well. So like the example I gave before, we can see from our platform that the colleagues receiving recognition are more than 50% less likely to leave the business than colleagues who are not receiving recognition. So we know that we've got a whole cohort of people there that we need to tap into. Why are they not being recognised? Speaking to those managers and really trying to amplify that. That's going to help us manage our retention and improve that even further. But I would look at those statistics, and I would also look at the data that's happening in your organisation. So what are your absence rates? What does your turnover look like? Do you do colleague engagement surveys? What data is being shared via those points? And again, see if you can triangulate any points that you think actually that demonstrates that more in terms of recognition could help managing absence, turnover, etc. And see if there's anything there that you could use to help convince those managers that actually it's not just pink and fluffy, it is actually really important and it's going to have an impact on them and their colleagues.
Brilliant, love that. There is one more question here, but I'm not going to ask it because it's definitely going to take more than 60 seconds. And so what we'll do is we'll follow up on that one. But essentially, it was someone who wants to do their own benefits review this year, wanted some tips on how they could get started and how they could get feedback from employees. But I know that would be a topic that you both could talk at length about. So we'll take that one offline and we'll come back to you. So that's brought us perfectly to 3:45. So thanks to everyone for coming. You'll get the recording after this if you need to revisit bits or want to share with any colleagues. And obviously, yeah, drop us a line to any three of us on LinkedIn, or we can share emails in our Q&A follow-up. So if you want to get in touch, let us know. But yeah, thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Zoe. It's been great chatting. And yeah, brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Zoe.
Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye. Bye.